into our presentation. So Kate, do you want to give us a start?
Yes, good morning, everyone. So happy to be here. My name is Kate Tornbloom. I am the program administrator at Marine Affairs. So I'm filling in for Kaylee Good, who's on maternity leave until June of 2026. So I'm happy to be here.
And Ruan?
Hello, everyone. My name is Ramon Filgueira. I'm one of the profs in the Marine Affairs program, and I teach marine science and technology. And currently, I'm co-teaching with Hannah integrated coastal zone management.
My name is Hannah Harrison. I'm also faculty within the Marine Affairs program. Ramon and I and Kate and one of our alumni all formed the admissions committee. So we're very delighted to meet many of you today. We hope that we'll be able to answer many of your questions. Today, we'll start with a presentation and an overview of the Marine Affairs program, and specifically the MMM degree, the Master of Marine Management. We'll talk a little bit about what that looks like, the courses that you might expect to take, internships, a little bit about what our alumni tend to do upon graduation in terms of career paths, and then we'll also talk about what we look for in a strong application. At the end, we're going to open the floor and welcome all of you to ask whatever questions you might have to us, and hopefully we can give you some clear answers and guidance that is helpful. So I'm going to just turn this on to a full share here. If at any point you need me to stop or something is unclear, Kate, if you would jump on your mic and let me know, because I cannot see everybody. So welcome. This is a photo from last year's MMM class on our annual harbor tour, where the whole cohort goes and tours the Halifax Harbor. So let's start a little bit about the MMM. So the MMM is embedded within the Marine Affairs program, which has currently 5 faculty, and Kate, who you've met, as well as our director, Maxine Westhead. And within that is the Master of Marine Management degree, and that's the sole and core degree that we offer. And within the Marine Affairs program broadly, our mission, as we envision it, is to empower future leaders through interdisciplinary and also transdisciplinary education, opportunities to do collaborative research with host organizations and groups that are working on the ground in the world, and that kind of community building, service and outreach, which for every student looks a little different. We hope for our graduates to be able to pursue innovative solutions to foster stewardship for a sustainable marine and coastal world and government through management techniques and through the lens of what we call an honest broker, which is somebody who is able to work honestly and in, I think, a balanced and transparent way with many different types of interests, including rights and stakeholders. So we kind of have these 3 core pieces of what we do: research, education, and then this outreach and service community engagement part. I mentioned we are 5 faculty and our wonderful admin and director. So here we are in all of our glory. This is the Marine Affairs unit. So you've met Ramon and myself. Dr. Megan Bailey is also with us. She's a Canadian Research Chair in Integrated Ocean Coastal Governance. She works a lot on international fisheries, access and allocation issues, and think big tuna, for example. And she also does quite a lot of work with rights holders in Atlantic Canada in fisheries. Dr. Wolf Schwartz, he's the Deputy Director of the Nippon Foundation for Ocean Nexus, works quite a bit, is a trained economist and works quite a bit around fisheries policy and equity, seafood supply chains, often through an economics lens. And then Dr. Rachel Cadman, who is with us for at least 1 more year, and she works quite a bit in kind of human ecological systems, particularly in the Arctic, and particularly around issues of Indigenous sovereignty related to marine issues. So we're a small but very, I'd say, close-knit bunch. We are led by the fabulous Maxine Westhead, who is our director, and she comes to us actually from after a career in DFO. So she brings a lot of really important lived experience to our program, especially in helping our MMM students link to career opportunities and be able to really understand the skill sets that are needed upon graduation. She specializes in marine protected areas and teaches our marine protected areas elective. We also benefit from having a broad community outside of the university. So we benefit from one professor emeritus, Dr. Lucia Fanning. She retired a few years ago, but continues to bring a lot of really excellent guidance and wisdom to the program. We also really appreciate our many hundreds of internship hosts who host our MMM students every year in quite a wide variety of fields. We'll come back to this a little later in the presentation. We also are unique in that we allow people outside of the faculty to be academic supervisors, provided that they are reasonably qualified to do so. So we're really looking to match our students with supervisory expertise that is linked to their field or to the topic of their work. And all of our graduate projects, which are the large written project that our students produce toward the end of their program, are evaluated by second readers. And those are people who are an arm's length, at least, from the project, but who have expertise in that field and can really help give a critical eye toward the work that the student produces. Within our classes, I think we really aim to bring our broad networks of professional relationships into the classroom and share a broad range of expertise and perspectives. So many guest lecturers and speakers throughout our classes. We also have a number of cross-appointed or adjunct professors. And what this means is people who work in other programs in the university, say the law school, or perhaps in the arts and social sciences, or perhaps in biology or in oceanography, who are cross-listed to us and therefore often work with our students on their projects or are able to hire students into their labs as part of their internships. I mentioned that the MMM degree is the only degree program within the Marine Affairs program, but faculty also host PhD students, master's students, and postdocs that are brought in through other programs within Marine Affairs. So we enjoy a much broader community of student scholars as well as our MMM classes. And as of June of this year, we now have 580 graduates from our program that work all around Canada and all around the world. And this is an example of that. So we've looked back through our history. Our program is about to be 40 years old, and we've looked back at our history of where our alumni have come from over the years. So at one time, our program attracted quite a few mid-career folks who are from all over the world, but were interested in perhaps advancing some of their skills or refreshing some of their skills. Back then, our program was only 1 year. Now it's 16 months. So you can get a sense of people coming from all over. In the 2000s to 2010s, we started to see a transition toward a lot more domestic students or students from North America, though still certainly students from elsewhere. And in more recent years, you can see much more of a focus toward the Caribbean, some Central America, but much more from Canada and from Europe. We still do really value and look forward to welcoming international students from anywhere in the world every year. But there are some logistical challenges that have definitely shifted our program to being a little bit more attractive to domestic students. One of those is just some of the challenges of getting study permits. While those challenges do exist, it is certainly not impossible to get study permits. So we continue to really look forward to applications from international students as well. So within the MMM degree, students are here for 4 terms, if you count the summer as being one of those terms. And during that time, students take 5 core courses and 3 electives as well. Students also have the option to audit an additional 2 courses, which we really encourage people to do because it's a nice way to be able to take part in a course that has perhaps a topic you're really interested in, but minimizing the workload of that course because you're not actually doing most of the assignments usually. So there's different ways to do this. Every student is able to select their own electives, and we're happy to offer guidance on that and make suggestions according to the student's interests. But one of the things that I think is really a strength of the program is it's very choose your own adventure, and there's lots of ways to make those choices. So during the life of the program, for most students who are doing the program full-time, they'll start with our skills development courses in Contemporary Issues 1 in their first term. As well as usually 1 to 2 electives. And for some students, we may also ask for some auxiliary courses, depending on your personal background, whether you've had strong exposure to ocean science in the past or not. The next term, starting in January, is another 2 core courses, Science and Technology, that Ramon teaches, and Contemporary Issues 2. That is usually also supplemented by at least 1 elective, depending on what you did in that first fall semester. And then comes our summer term. And this is where you're not actually attending any courses, but rather engaged full-time in your internship. and you're enrolled in a course called the graduate project. So it doesn't actually meet physically, but you are receiving credit and working towards several milestones of developing that graduate project, which is this independent piece of work that the student leads. In the last term, the second fall, we then continue to have students take their graduate project credits. Again, it doesn't meet as a course, but you are still enrolled in those credits, and you take your final course with us, which is Coastal Zone Management, which Ramon and I have been co-teaching the last few years. Sometimes people hold one of their electives till that last semester or choose to audit an additional course in that last semester. Again, each person is unique and their workload preferences are unique, but it's not so common. Usually people are just taking that final core course. During that semester, people are really engaged full-time on finishing their graduate projects and finding their second readers, submitting them in a timely way. And then it wraps up all at the end in usually early December with what we call Making Waves, which is kind of a final presentation celebration, usually spread over 2 days, where we invite everyone who has taken part in the MMM with you, guest lecturers, internship hosts, etc., all of your supervisors and second readers, and invite them to this event to watch you be able to give that final presentation about the work that you've been doing. It's quite a special time, always a little bittersweet because it's exciting, people are finishing, but also sad to see them go. So it really a nice time. I've mentioned that we have a cohort, so we tend to seat between 20 and 24 students every year. We are really interested in cohorts that are diverse, that bring a variety of skill sets and perspectives and backgrounds to the program. And during the autumn is when we have the outgoing cohort who's about to be finished and the incoming cohort who's just starting overlap. So it's really a fun time in the Marine Affairs program where we have 40 students who are all getting chances to work together, but who are at very different stages of the program. And the outgoing cohort often acts as kind of a mentorship role to some of the incoming students as well. So with all of those things in mind, we try and achieve breadth, this broad exposure to a range of topics through all of these core courses, as well as depth into specific topics that are of interest to the students. And that depth is achieved through your elective choices, through the papers that you choose to undertake during your assignments or during your courses. So that there's often a number of assignments where students may choose their own topic, and that's a great way to explore further the things that are of interest to you, as well as certainly the graduate project and sometimes also the internship and the things that you choose to pursue there as well. Our courses offer a really broad range of learning outcomes. I've tried to capture some of, I think, really the big ones here, but students really take away a lot of different types of skills and content exposure from our courses. In terms of skill sets, some of the things that we really feel are common for students to take away are those that developing those independent research skills. So everything from that first step of thinking of what is the question I'd like to ask, all the way through to the completion of something that is of publication quality. We do not require students to publish to graduate in our program, but we find that every year there's usually a handful of students whose projects are a great fit to a journal article and do take their project to that publication stage, but it is not a requirement. And some projects that just isn't a great fit. There are other things that students can produce that are actually more valuable, depending on what the topic is. Critical thinking skills and that ability to really identify problems and identify pathways to solving those problems yourself is a really important thing that we try to work into a lot of the ways our assignments are developed, that our courses are developed, and the additional experiences students have within the program. This is one of the things that employers ask for the most is somebody who has a lot of that intrinsic motivation to be able to go and figure out how to address complicated tasks or problems. In terms of experiences and the types of content exposure one might expect, we work hard to build a lot of opportunities for community engagement, whether that's through field trips, through the internships, through the graduate project work each person undertakes. Lots of opportunities to really work with folks who are working in the real world. We also have quite a focus on learning about appropriate stake and rights holder engagement, how to go about that, what are the important steps, what are the sometimes intangible aspects of that, how an honest broker might fit into dealing with conflicts between different stake and rights holder groups, for instance. We have quite a strong emphasis throughout all of our courses on understanding and respect of Indigenous rights, of treaty, and of respectful engagement more broadly, certainly within the Canadian context, but much of what we learn there is transferable to other contexts as well. We also focus quite heavily on developing very strong writing skills, particularly around being able to write to managers, to policymakers through like a policy review or memo development process, but also just really leveling up that writing skill to a professional level. With that comes also public presentation, being able to conduct oneself professionally in a public audience or public space, and being able to represent well the topic that you are there to discuss, as well as, of course, a very wide base of knowledge on many different contemporary marine issues that the courses cover. So I'm going to talk a little bit now toward the ways that people might look for scholarship opportunities in the program, as well as like getting now more into the application process. So scholarship opportunities, we offer 3 scholarships a year that are unique to our program and a couple of the other marine programs on campus, but really quite a small handful. This funding is provided through the SOBI Fund for Oceans, which is a very generous endowment from the SOBI's family. We have 3 scholarships. Each are worth about $17,500 in Canadian, and they are, one is designated toward international students, one is designated toward Indigenous or African Nova Scotian students, and one does not have a designation. So those are the 3 that we are able to give out each year. That funding also helps support internship placements for MMM students with WWF. Usually there's between 2 and 3 of those a year. And that fund now helps to support a biannual, both cohorts trip to the Huntsman Marine Science Center in St. Andrews, New Brunswick. So we bring the entire program in a bus to this 3-day field trip. And it's really, I think, a special experience. The Huntsman Marine Science Center is quite the institution in Canada. It's Canada's oldest marine science center, and it's situated right on the Bay of Fundy in St. Andrews. Really a beautiful location and a great place to see a lot of the types of research that are going on to help advance some of our most challenging marine questions, but also an excellent chance to build really strong relationships within the cohort, between the cohort and faculty, because we are also there with you, and to hear from professionals in the field. We host some panels that where we bring in professionals who talk about some of the things that they look for in hiring new folks into their field. To be eligible for the SOBI's Fund for Oceans scholarships, applicants to the program must have completed applications submitted to the MMM program, as well as the separate application for the SOBI's. And I'll ask Kate if you wouldn't mind dropping both the link to our application program as well, or to our application rather, as well as the SOBI's application. Both of those things must be completed and submitted by January 31st. That includes your references. So this is something that sometimes we see as a bit of a challenge for applicants, is they're able to complete all other portions of the application, but their references haven't been submitted yet. And that's a really important step. So my number 1 suggestion, particularly for international students, but for domestic students as well who are interested in scholarship support, please get those materials in as early as you can, while still having a really high quality application. And I'm happy to answer more questions about this toward the end. So this is just a shot of our cohort who just graduated in June at the Huntsman Marine Science Center last year. It's really a fun time, very fond memories. And this is just a little imagery of what life in the MMM can look like. So students, as I mentioned, it's very choose your own adventure. I've brought some photos here of students who have worked in my lab in the last few years, just to showcase a little bit of the diversity of what students do. So in the bottom right image here, this is Danilo. He's a current student who's about to finish the program, and his internship was with a film company called Cloudberry. And that company is interested in making films that showcase co-management arrangements and success stories throughout Canada, but in this case, focused on the Fundy Salmon Recovery Project. So a really interesting opportunity. Danilo happened to come into the program with an acting background, as well as a strong undergraduate education, and was really interested in trying to use some of those skills. So this was a great chance for him to actually move from in front of the camera, what that he was used to behind the camera, to be able to help create this documentary with the guidance of his internship host. He's also then turned some of this into the topic of his graduate project, which is looking at the issue of Indigenous representation in documentary environmental filmmaking. On the bottom left corner, this is Abby. Abby graduated last June and finished the program in terms of coursework almost a year ago now. Abby now works for, I think, the Canadian Lobster Research Association or something very similar to this. She did her internship with the Halifax Port Authority and conducted a broad literature review that looked at all of the different ecosystem types of the Halifax Harbor. And it turns out we actually don't know a lot about those ecosystem types or where they all are necessarily. So it was very interesting to see the things that we do know a lot about, and then also the places that we actually don't have a super clear sense of. That work is now being used by the Halifax Port Authority after her graduation to launch a new certification program that they're interested in around the Port Authority's impacts on the harbor and trying to make those things more sustainable and environmentally friendly. So really clear impact of her work in the host organization that she worked for. And then in the upper left, the person on the far left-hand side, that's Sinead. Sinead worked for the Margaree Salmon Association in the Margaree Valley over this last summer. That was her internship, and she was conducting human dimensions research on the perceptions of a mandatory retention order for smallmouth bass. The photo that you see here is her taking a swiftwater safety and rescue course to prepare for life working alongside the Margaree River all summer. And the person, there's two people in blue. The one on the left side, that's Michael. Michael actually was a graduate of the MMM program the year before Sinead and went to work for the Margaree Salmon Association and then was able to help host Sinead the next year. So the MMM alumni network is super important to us, something we really value and treasure, and are very helpful in like helping current students find those next steps, whether in internships or in the working world afterward. So just some examples. I mentioned those internship opportunities and some of the places that recent students have worked for. There is certainly a much broader list than that. This is just an example of some of those things. Every year it looks a little different because funding looks a little different each year. Who's got a new project coming up, different agencies that are looking for different things. So every year is different, but we do have some that tend to welcome our students every year. CWF is one of those, DFO is one of those, but really exciting every year to see where people make new connections and find great fits for their interests and the interests of their internship host. To speak a little bit more about the requirements of the internship. So it is a minimum of 4 weeks. However, most students do at least 12 weeks. Many students do 16 weeks and just they work that whole May 1st to the end of August. But it kind of depends. Again, very choose your own adventure, trying to fit the interests and needs of the student to the interests and needs of an organization. But it can really look like anything. If you are coming from somewhere else outside of Canada or even somewhere else in Canada and you have an organization there that is of interest to you to intern for, that is absolutely possible. So again, we try and work with students on a really individual basis. Our program is intentionally kept on the smaller side because we want to be able to have those individual relationships with students and be able to offer personalized guidance on where they might take their internship experience. The person you see in this photo is Ojas. Ojas also graduated, finished the program about a year ago. Ojas came from India. He worked actually as an engineer on an oil tanker for 7 years before he came to the MMM program. He was interested in kind of taking a new direction in his career, and he is now working for the Halifax Port Authority post-graduation. So a really great example of having kind of a non-traditional scholarly background, but finding a really nice opportunity in the MMM program to change his career path towards something that suited his future interests. In terms of career opportunities after the MMM, I've mentioned a couple students that have found employment in the region. Students find employment all over the place. It does not have to be here. But we were trying to figure out, like, what does that success rate look like? And I think this is probably our best estimate. We don't actually track those numbers super clearly, so maybe something we should start doing. But approximately every year, 10 to 15% of our students tend to stay on additional contracts with their internship hosts. So I gave you the example of Danilo, our filmmaking student. His internship host actually invited him to stay on part-time in the the autumn term, the term that we're in right now, and has offered him a full-time contract upon finishing the program for several months after he's finished. So a nice opportunity that's kind of continued to grow as he's built his relationship with them. By the time the students finish the program requirements in December, we find that between 40 and 50, sometimes more, percent of our students have found some sort of employment that is related to their degree and are stepping right into that as soon as they're finished. Within 6 months of finishing the degree requirements, so at the time that you would actually go through graduation, which is in June of every year, we find that that number has usually risen quite a bit. Between 50 and 75% of students have found employment. Again, it looks a little different every year. And then within 1 year, I would say between 80 to 90% of students are finding employment related to their MMM degree, sometimes higher. So the success rate looks pretty high, and within a year finishing is often very high. We find that the number one component of that success and finding that next step after the program is really related to the networks that students build during their degree. And that's something we really emphasize, is trying to help students develop those relationships that are going to help them into those next career steps. I mentioned our MMM alumni network. It is very broad. It's 580 people at this stage. And there's quite a passion, I think, amongst our alumni to try and support current students and find them those opportunities, whether as an intern or in the career field afterward. So let's talk a little bit about writing a strong application. So I've written these out in quite a lot of detail here for the sake of people who might watch this recording later, or if you'd like to revisit these points. But there's a few things that we really recommend. First, make sure that that application is filled out completely. It's surprising how often people don't do that, and then their application doesn't move through the system, or we're missing information. Choose references that can speak well to your academic and professional abilities, but potentially your ability to succeed in a graduate school setting. If you have been out of school for a while, the type of person that we ask you to find a reference from can look different. So if you're an undergraduate right now, we look for people who have taught you or who have worked with you in, say, a laboratory setting, so academic style references. But if you've been out of school a while, the longer you've been out, the more we're happy to accept professional references rather than academic references. I'll ask Kate if you wouldn't mind putting into the chat. There is a link from Graduate Studies, I believe, that helps you determine which of those you should be looking for, depending on how long you've been out of school. So I'll direct you to look toward that. We also ask for a research statement. This is a super important part of your application and should not be taken lightly. Follow the guidance that is on our admissions website. Kate, if when you're done with the references, one, if you wouldn't mind dropping the admissions details page in as well to the chat. What we're looking for here is your ability to conceptualize a research question or a concept that you're interested to look at, perhaps as part of an internship or as a graduate project, and then demonstrate that you're able to develop some of a proposal around what that might look like. So what sort of methods might you use? What is the background issue here? What's the marine management problem that you're interested in looking at? And some of the literature that helps support your argument that, in fact, this is a problem, that we are interested to learn about this. We are not expecting you to go do a study, but rather we want you to present kind of a scholarly essay of that discussion of that topic. It is important that you demonstrate use of references, appropriate references here, present a reference list at the end, and that there is some sort of clear question or argument being made in that. I'll come back to the use of AI later, but we do see people sometimes use AI to generate these things. I will say it is fairly evident when that has happened and is also inappropriate, but also doesn't tell us very much about your interests or your writing ability. And those are the things we're really interested to learn about each candidate. So make sure that you can certainly use those types of things for, say, checking your grammar or spelling, but we would really like to see your writing ability here. And that's not because we're hoping to judge you unfairly, but because we really want to make sure that your skill level is a good match to the program. We want to set students up for success and not bring them into a program only for them to find out that, gosh, their writing just isn't quite at that level and they're really struggling. And that's an unfortunate situation. We don't want anyone to end up there. So make sure to show us your personal capabilities. The personal statement is a separate document, and here is the opportunity to tell us why the MMM program. Why is this the right place for you to pursue your interests and goals? are you sure that this is the right place for you? We certainly hope it is, but we want to make sure that it's a good fit to your interests. So this is a place to tell us a little bit about yourself. If you've been out of school for a while, or you're maybe closer to a mid-career change and coming back into a schooling environment, please tell us a little bit about that. We'd love to know a little bit about your context. Why is this the right thing for you at this time? Throughout all of your documents, we are looking at writing, so do make sure to put your best foot forward in that respect. It does not have to be perfect. We understand typos happen, but do make sure to have a second proofread of those documents. With respect to GPA, this is a question we get a lot. There is a guiding GPA that we have as a standard for graduate studies. We aim for candidates that are hopefully at or above that GPA, but from time to time, we are happy to consider GPA that is lower than that if there's some other aspects of the application that are really compelling and really show that this person would probably be a great fit to the program. So making sure you meet that threshold. If you don't, again, like make sure every other aspect of your application is really powerful and really demonstrates you as a candidate well. If you're above that threshold, having a stronger GPA is useful because it demonstrates that you are able to succeed in an academic environment, but it is not the only factor that we're interested in. If we do find that often when students enter their undergrad, they might have a tough first semester or two, and then things tend to climb and get better after that, but the overall GPA maybe isn't a strong reflection of how great they were toward the end. That's okay. Don't stress out about that. We understand that those things happen. And really what we're looking for is a demonstration of the ability to succeed in an academic environment, in courses and whatnot. Again, we want to make sure students are prepared to be successful in the program and aren't going to come in and then really feel down because they're struggling. Your CV is also an important part of your application, making sure it's up to date, that it's listed from most recent experiences to your least recent experiences in every category, and that it shows us really concrete evidence of your educational, professional, and any extracurricular experiences you have. Leadership opportunities are a great thing to feature there. Unique experiences that you've had, research-related experience is a really strong one. Focus, I really strongly suggest to students, don't just list a bunch of skills or bullet points of skills that you have. Rather, show us how those skills have been related to your previous experiences. If you do have specific skills in, say, software or particular methods in research, feel free to list those things, but it's not as helpful for us to see a list of skills that say like critical thinking or time management. Show us how those things actually developed in the real experiences that you've had. As just one tip for some of our applicants, in some countries, it's quite common to include a photograph of yourself on your CV. In North America, that is not the norm. So please feel free to not include a photo. If some of your documents, like your transcripts, have that photo embedded in them already, that's okay. It does not count against you, but we do not expect or need to see photos. And then finally, I mentioned the generative AI, but throughout your application, please avoid the use of generative AI. Your application should be written by you, not by AI. But of course, it's perfectly fine to use tools to help you present your best application, like grammar or spelling checkers. If you have any questions about that, please let us know. But for us, seeing somebody develop a huge portion of their application using AI does not count well toward that applicant. For our admissions timeline, so international student applications are reviewed as soon as they are received, and again, they must be completed. So that means the application fee must be paid and your references must be received. The reason that we do these applications on this early rolling basis is so that those students who are admitted have time to apply for a study permit. That can be a lengthy process. So we strongly recommend that if you are an international student, that your entire application is complete and submitted no later than January 31st. Earlier is better if you are able, but January 31st is the recommended deadline. You can certainly apply after that as an international student, but we are less able to feel confident that a study permit might be issued in time if you are admitted. And that, unfortunately, that's just a challenge we see every year. We really try and get people to submit early. For domestic applications, we also review those on a rolling basis, and we'll begin that process in mid-January. Usually because that's when we begin to have a large enough batch of applications to start looking through them together. That said, if we did receive larger batches earlier than that, we would also perhaps start that process earlier. It kind of depends year to year how that looks. We try very hard to get you the result of your application within approximately a month. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer than that. The thing that delays application review the most is that references have not been submitted yet. So please, please, please make sure that those references, you might need to send them a reminder, but that those references are submitted. Every so often, we might ask an applicant for additional documents. So for example, additional writing samples, or on very rare occasions, a brief interview. And usually we ask for an interview if we feel that the student is a great fit for the program, but we want to make sure that what they are going to get from the program actually aligns with their goals or personal ambitions. And maybe in the application, those things don't seem quite clear. So if you are asked for an interview, don't panic. This is not a bad thing. But sometimes we're just really wanting to make sure there's a good fit. I mentioned we see between 20 and 24 students. We're interested in a really diverse cohort. Our cutoff for applications is later in the winter terms, kind of in the springtime. However, if for some reason the cohort is not full by then, we will accept late applications on a case-by-case basis, but only for candidates that are a really exceptionally strong fit to the program. So if you somehow find that this is you, I doubt it will be people on this call because you've all joined this call quite early. But if you're watching this recording later and you find this applies to you, please shoot us an email. We're happy to discuss your particular circumstances with you. Once you are admitted, you do need to pay a $200 Canadian deposit to hold your seat in the cohort. That deposit will be counted toward your tuition later, so it's not an extra cost, but we do need to have that deposit on file to make sure that we know you're coming, that your seat will be held for you. If we do not receive that, we may eventually give that seat away to another applicant. So please make sure to follow up on that. Sometimes we find students are excited to get the thumbs up email, but then they don't follow up that additional step. So please make sure to keep that in mind. All right, that is all I have for you in terms of a presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing so I can look back and see all of you again. Maybe I'll just ask Ramon and Kate if there's anything else that you'd like to add that I did not touch on there.
No, I think that you
from
did
me,
a
no.
great cover. Yeah.
Okay. And thanks so much, Kate, for putting those links in there. So I will turn the floor over to our audience and to people who might have questions. If there's anything, please feel free to either put your emoji hand up or turn your camera on or jump on your microphone, and hopefully we can help with your question. Hannah, go ahead.
Hi there. My name's Hannah. Yeah, I just wanted to ask a quick question regarding the personal statement as well as the research you wanted to include. And I'm just wondering the ideal length for both of those documents, and what is the most successful for both of those documents regarding length and focus within both of them.
Yes, so if you go through our admissions info webpage, I believe that it states a page limit or word count limit for both of those documents. Please try and stick to those. Please do not submit something significantly longer. In terms of focus, I strongly suggest that for the research statement, pick something that's of interest to you, that you find some genuine intrigue in, that you'd like to be able to dig in deeper, ideally a marine-related topic that is appropriate to what the program can offer you. Every year, students write on quite a broad variety of topics, sharks, whales, turtles, fish, all kinds of interesting things. And we're very happy to see all of them. Keep in mind that the topic you select for that is not then a requirement that you only look at that in the program. So we do not expect you to only be passionate about whales forever. You can be passionate about whales this year, and then maybe sea turtles are your thing next year. That's totally fine. So it is something that you are particularly interested in. It also helps us see, oh, what are this person's interests? Is it actually more in maritime trade? Is it in marine mammal conservation? And get a sense of like who you are as a person and the things that interest you. For the personal statement, really, we're looking to get to know you a little bit better and understand your motivations for pursuing the MMM degree. So whatever information you would like to include that helps us get to know you as a candidate, that's really what we're looking for there.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Yes, thanks very much. Anastasia. You are muted. Do you mind unmuting yourself, please?
Yes, please. Sorry for that. My name is Anastasia from Ghana, and I'm interested in the course. I have a question though. So with the scholarships that are available for international students, is the list exclusive to all the scholarships available, or there are other scholarships for access for international students as well?
Great question. So the Sobeys Fund for Ocean scholarships that you saw are the only ones available at the time of admission. There are 2 other scholarships that we do grant during the program. And Kate, I don't know if you might be able to find our webpage that talks about those and pop that into the chat if you don't mind. But those are granted during the program, not before you arrive. And those are based on usually performance in the program and are faculty selected rather than based on a separate evaluation committee, which is how Sobeys is adjudicated. So unfortunately, there is not additional funding for that. It is every now and again, students do identify funding from outside of Dalhousie that they can apply to their degree here. And certainly we welcome those things. But unfortunately, only those Sobeys Fund for Ocean scholarships are available through our program.
Okay, thank you very much, Hannah. What about graduate assistantship programs? Do you have graduate assistantship programs?
Sorry, can you ask that one more time, please?
Graduate assistantship. You didn't speak anything about that.
So do you mean like being able to do like TAing work or other types of work during the program? Yes. Okay. So yes, that is something that many of our students do as you know, to pay their cost of living or other expenses. There are a number of teaching assistant, occasionally research assistant, and other types of marking and demonstrator positions that are hired all over Dalhousie, and they're often looking for people to do that work. So there's quite a number that are usually available every year. Our program does hire them. But there are programs everywhere in the Faculty of Science, which is where we're situated, that also hire them. So I would say every year a fair portion of our students take on some of those types of work and just to help support themselves. And they fit pretty well around the coursework as well. Usually you can negotiate a little bit with the professor who's hiring or who's running that class to be able to sort out your schedule. I believe international students are very eligible to be able to take those positions. If I recall correctly, and please follow up on this as an individual to make sure this is still true, but I believe that a study permit for international students allows students to work on campus up to 20 hours a week. So there's an opportunity to be able to look for employment that way.
Thank you very much, Hannah. That answers my questions very well.
Yes, thanks very much. Wendy, go ahead.
Hi, thanks very much for the presentation. It's been really informative. I am a mid-career potential applicant, and I am wondering if it's possible to do this degree program on a part-time basis. Is that something you've ever encountered, or is that something that would be possible?
Yeah, excellent question. Thanks very much. So part-time is possible in the MMM degree. I would say it's not super common. Most of our students do choose to pursue it full-time. But particularly for students who are perhaps have been out of school for a while and maybe are coming back to kind of level up their skills, if you will, or are looking for some advanced degree training, that is certainly something that we can accommodate. So one of the ways that might look is distributing the number of courses you take over more semesters. There would be some kind of continuing fees that apply because you're adding semesters to the program, but they are, as compared to the program fee, quite small or much less. So that is something we could certainly do. If you think that that might be the best fit for you, please indicate as such in your application. And then that's something that we can also talk about, make sure that we can figure out the right structure for your particular course load, internship timing, grad project timing, et cetera, in advance, so that that's not a surprise to anyone should you be admitted. But great question. Yeah, not super common, but definitely possible.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Rebecca, go ahead.
Thank you. Speaking of program fees and yearly fees, just wondering the kind of overall fee. I did find some information on the website, but it wasn't complete. And then looking for the range of cost for an international student outside of room and board.
Sorry, can you just repeat the last little bit of your question? I'm not sure I fully understood.
Yeah, so on the website, it does include if you want to live on campus and have a meal plan. And I'm just curious on the program cost outside of room and board.
Okay. Oh, okay. I follow you now. So yes, so the overall, there is one program cost rather than per course costs for the MMM. The overall program cost comes to just under, I think, 17,000 for the entire program. If you, for whatever reason, and students make this decision to extend the length of the program every year, depending on personal circumstances, I believe it's about $1,000 per additional term beyond the 16 months that are part of the core program. Yes, so I think you found probably some tuition charts that included details about housing and food and whatnot. Those are, I would say, probably most helpful for undergraduate students. I don't know if any of our graduate students tend to live on campus. I'm sure it must happen occasionally, but by and large, most of them live off campus in like private rentals, apartments and whatnot. Most, I think, tend to rent a room in some sort of shared accommodation, and those costs can certainly vary by your personal preferences. I'm thinking about some of the current students we have right now, and I think they're paying for like a one room. I have one student who's paying for one room in a 2-room, I would say nice apartment, $1,000 per person. I have another student who is renting a full 1-bedroom apartment with her partner. I think they pay about $1,500 a month. So it just really depends. Costs around the university tend to, or I shouldn't say costs, accommodations around the university tend to be a lot more like home shares or room shares, maybe four rooms in a house or something like that. But you can really find quite a diversity of housing in and around Halifax. I did just read an article yesterday that there has been a decline in housing costs in Halifax, like around Dalhousie specifically, of about 9% in the last year. So that's some good news. I think costs might be, they were quite high for a while. So that has come down a little bit. It is still high. Housing in Halifax is very expensive as compared to other places. Food costs, I hesitate to guess because that also really varies by the individual. But there are, I think, a number of different types of grocery stores or markets that one might use, kind of depending on where your budget's at. So if you're new to the Halifax area, kind of figuring out where those are and what they look like. We find that the cohorts are usually quite close knit, and there's a lot of good friendships, and that can really help to figure out like where's the best place to go if you're trying to be on a budget or if you're looking for certain kinds of foods. But yeah, I'm not sure I could speculate well on overall food costs. I would say for an individual, it would probably be not unreasonable to plan for like between $300 and $400 a month. But again, really depends on the person and what they like to eat and how they like to cook. So, or whether they like to eat out a lot, certainly that would increase that cost. So yeah, so there's, I guess, in summary, quite a range of those costs that would come on top of the program fee, but that are not necessarily through the campus themselves.
Sure. Thank you for that. So just to verify the program cost at an international rate, you said.
So the number I gave of just under 17,000 is the domestic rate. Hey,
Okay.
would you be able to find the international rate? It is more. I am not sure how much more though, and I don't want to give you an incorrect number. So let us dig for that just a little bit.
Okay, perfect. That
yes.
seemed very low for the international rate.
Yes, I'm sorry. I think I misunderstood the way
It's
you
okay.
originally asked the question. But if you are coming from somewhere else, do keep in mind that this is in Canadian dollars. So, for example, if you're coming from the United States, do factor in the exchange rate, which at this moment is quite helpful for the Canadian dollar.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I get maybe one other tip is that if you are an international student moving to Halifax for the first time and post-admission, one thing that we do try and do is match you with a buddy in the outgoing cohort. And we often try and match international students together because they have the best sense of costs, but also of maybe cultural differences between, say, Canada, if you're coming from somewhere else that's very unlike Canada, or even tips and tricks of like working with the International Student Center and various things that might really help you integrate into Halifax and feel comfortable here. Okay, sorry, more questions. So Madeline, go ahead.
Hi. I was hoping to find my question or the answer to my question on the website, but it seems that the program specific admission requirements link is dead. It gives me like a 404 message.
We have just overhauled our website, and this is something that is now being updated behind the scenes in the system. So very sorry.
Amazing. It's all good.
Yes. This year we have just started using a program called Slate for our admissions process. So before that happened, we asked candidates to send us all of their documents in an email separately. So there was kind of this whole other thing. I think, did you find that on the graduate studies page? It's kind of like a bright yellow page with like lots of big bold pieces to it.
Yes. Like I found the page with the application link, and then on like the page that it was like, if you want more information, go to this page, and then that was the page where the link was dead. But
yes,
I'm sure that's just being
trying
like,
very hard to update that.
Yeah.
That particular webpage happens to be controlled by the graduate studies program, which is different than us. So we have no access, sadly, but hopefully will be updated soon. But that, so that's a bit of an artifact from last year's admissions process. So this is brand new. The Slate platform allows you to upload everything directly to one place and submit it all together. And it collects your references to that place as well. So when you submit who you would like to invite to be a reference to you, and then you pay your application fee and kind of submit what you have, like your portion of the documents, the system automatically invites your references to submit and tells them how to do that. No additional documents are now needed outside of that process. So fortunately, it's way easier than it used to be, much more user-friendly, thank goodness. But unfortunately, we have not tracked down every single link just yet. So very sorry for that. But yes, so you can ignore the additional things.
Okay. I was just curious for the writing sample, like what, I guess, type of writing you're looking for that, if it's like writing that you've already done or like something new that you're doing.
Yes, so you don't have to submit a separate writing sample. You can if you would like. So the research statement and the personal statement, we use those as writing samples in addition to kind of learning about your skill level and your interests. If you're like, I have this amazing honors thesis that I would really like to submit, show off how fabulous my skills are, please feel free. What we are looking for in additional writing samples are things that you have been the primary author on. So either solo author, or if it's, say, a publication or something that you were really the main lead.
Gotcha.
So a group project, for instance, probably wouldn't be a great fit because it's difficult to know what you did versus, say, what your group members did. But we're looking for something that really demonstrates your writing ability and skill.
That makes sense. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much.
If I can add there, I think that if that writing, if that piece involves some level of research, even better.
Yes.
Because that's we are looking for people who are able to conduct research on an independent way, and that's an upper level course assignment in which you had room to do a little bit of research rather than summarizing information or stuff like that.
Would an interim thesis work for that? Because I won't have my full honors thesis done, but I'll have like 2 seconds of it done. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And when you submit it, if you have a way to like just label it as such, that's quite common. We realize at this point in the year, most people's honors theses are not finished yet. But if you have some strong draft prepared that is a great demonstration of those things, that's perfect. But not necessarily, not required per se.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much. Sorry, Rebecca, I'll just come back to you. Kate has put into the chat a link to a fee calculator that helps identify the fee levels for domestic versus international students. And just for your use of that calculator, the MMM program is 4 terms. Let's go to Emma, please.
Hi, thank you so much for putting this on. It's really helpful and informative. I was wondering, do you all accept students into, let's say, like multiple programs? So like doing a dual degree or working in 2 different programs?
The short answer is no. So the MMM is a standalone program, is not partnered with any other degree program at the moment. I mean, I suppose one could choose to enroll in this and apply simultaneously and enroll in something else. I will say this sounds very difficult, mostly because the program, I would say the 16 months, we are a professional program, it is course-based, but it is intense. It is a full course load, those first 2 terms. The internship is very full-time. I would be cautious, I guess, about taking on another program at the same time, just for the sake of being able to do well in either one. But I think maybe your question is around like some programs at Dal have sort of joint degrees where you are able to do one and then kind of the other. And then when you graduate, you receive the, I guess, accommodation of both. We do, the MMM program at the moment does not offer that.
Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. Rob, go ahead. Find you in the chat here. Admissions requirements or prerequisites. Is a science background or BSc required for application eligibility? No, it is not. So we do look for a 4-year undergraduate degree. It does not need to be in the sciences. We are a very interdisciplinary program. So, and we lean quite heavily toward policy and management, which includes a great portion of the social sciences as well. So we do have students who come in from very diverse scholarly backgrounds that are not in a science program at all. Bachelors of Arts, for instance. This year we have a student who did a Bachelor of Arts, I think at Mount Allison, if I remember, and her program had a couple of science courses in it, but wasn't very science focused at all. We really value that as an admissions team, as long as you can kind of demonstrate why why does this, say, background in the arts or in political science lead you to this Master of Marine Management degree? What's the connection that you find in your life and you would like to tailor your career toward this? So help us understand that part. But yeah, in terms of a particular degree, there is no requirement for that or any specific prereqs. There is one exception that if you haven't taken an ocean sciences course in the past, we may ask you to take one as an auxiliary course in your first term with us. It's called Blue Planet. It's a course offered here at Dalhousie. That does not come at additional cost. That is part of your program fees. But the reason we ask for that is just to make sure you have a strong natural science foundation in how does the ocean work. Fairly critical in management to have that base level. So we may ask for that, but generally speaking, there's no particular requirement. But great question. Design and architecture. Ooh, wow. How fortuitous is this? I just happened to be at the Faculty of Architecture at Dalhousie doing a guest lecture, and a student, I work on coastal access issues as a researcher, and a student spoke to me afterward who is doing a really interesting Master of Architecture thesis on like wild swimming and urban bathing in and around Halifax, and is very interested in like the management aspect of like marine water quality and people's architecture and like coastal design that then allows for people to be able to use the ocean to like go bathing or swimming. Super interesting, like really cool interdisciplinary topics that could come from this. This is a bit of an aside now, but anyway, let's go to Josh.
Hiya, sorry, I actually just joined because I'm working, but
no worries.
And that links to my question actually. My question is, I'm actually working outside, so I did geography, and I studied kind of how to model fish habitats, and that kind of is my passion that I want to return to. But currently working in, I had to find a job, so I'm working currently in sports, and I do want to go back to marine stuff, but is there a kind of a limit to the number of years you work outside of the ocean science arena before you can do another master's in marine stuff? Sorry, I don't know if that's a very well structured question.
No, I think I understand you. I mean, generally, no. We have a student this year who did an undergraduate degree and then was a lifeguard for 13 years and is just really passionate about oceans and would like to have a career change, and is coming in as a student in now her mid 30s. So I would say a big gap in between her original degree and now this, and to work. But now has later in her life found that actually she'd really like to pursue this again. So generally speaking, no. However, helping us understand that life trajectory a little bit and why now and this program are the right things for you to be able to get back into that marine sector, that's really helpful for us. And how you're linking maybe some of that past experience to coming into this degree. With respect to work, again, we really see a value in most lived experiences. I will say when I am looking at CVs, when people have worked in restaurants for a long time, I go, that is a person who knows how to problem solve, think on their feet, multitask. Like there's a lot of skills and qualities that are really useful in grad school and in careers beyond that maybe show up in places you wouldn't expect them and don't necessarily look like, interned at DFO or something. So we're really quite, I think, open-minded about the type of work that you might be doing, but just helping us understand the connections that for you have led you to this is quite important in that personal statement.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yes. All right. Any other questions that we can answer for anyone? Okay. Seeing none, then we'll end the meeting here. But thank you very much, everyone, for coming and joining us today, for learning about the program and asking some really nice questions. If you do have additional questions after this, please feel free to send them to our program email. That's marinaaffairs@dal.ca, which I've just put in the chat for you. You're also welcome to reach out to me directly if you'd like, if you've kind of got like application specific questions, and my email is there. But yeah, we really encourage you to complete those applications at your earliest availability and help us get to know you a little bit through the documents that you submit. And we really look forward to seeing some of you as candidates. So thank you so much. I'll stay on just a few more minutes in case anyone wants to ask any last questions, but otherwise that's all we have. Thank you.
Thank you.